So, hello everyone, and welcome to our next and in fact penultimate presentation of our Austrian Select Conference today. The meeting before with Zumtobel is still running, but I know that most of the other investors will come shortly. I'm happy to have Marinomed here with me today. CEO Andreas Grassauer will enlighten us on the current development of Marinomed. Some housekeeping: the presentation will last 15 to 20 minutes. We will have time like 5 to 10 minutes for a Q&A session afterwards. The presentation is being recorded, and as you might be aware now, the questions can be asked using the chat box at the bottom right. And given that we are already late in time, I'd like to hand over to you, Andreas. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Yeah, jump right into it. With whom do you invest when you buy the share? Typically, you invest in people. Myself, biotechnologies by training, serial entrepreneur, and since 20 years CEO of the company. My wife, Eva, she used to be the program team head of the allergy program at Novartis, and you will see in a minute why this matters. Gabriele Ram, probably somebody of you know her. She has worked for Wienerberger, was the CFO of Pipelife, and joined us a little bit more than a year ago. Simon Nebel, chairman of the board, a Swiss veteran of life sciences, on the board of many life science companies. Elisabeth Lackner, also board member, CEO of a clinical and research company, and Karl Mahler, former head of strategy and investor relations at Roche, and nowadays working for a couple of other companies as a consultant. And we are a company who is more than 73% in free float. Management and founders still own around 20%, and we have our shareholders, the Al-Sheikhs families, which invested 2006. They have held the shares for 20 years. Have divested some of them after the IPO, but long-term shareholders from the Middle East. So what is the opportunity, and why it's a good idea to hold shares of Marinomed? We are at a very interesting point in our corporate history, because we have progressed our key assets, Budesolv and Tacrosolv, to a level where they're ready for partnering, and we are in partnering with these assets. So the clinical trials have successfully completed, and now we're at the stage where we want to partner with Big Pharma. We are in advanced process there. We are on a term sheet level for Budesolv and on LOI level with Tacrosolv. So it can be, it's no guarantee, but it can be the news in the near future. So stay tuned what comes on there. And both assets target multi-billion markets. On one hand, it's in allergy, and the other one is in ophthalmology. I will come to that in a minute. We expect our business to be continuously profitable. That's not a given for a life science company, and especially not a given for us, because we have, of course, generated losses in the past. And the recent capital increase just completed helps us to bring us to these value inflection milestones. And of course, having more cash in the company helps in negotiations with these partners. It's better to have cash in the company to go through these negotiations. So what is the business model, and what is the company doing? So basically, we have a technology that's very simple to explain. It's not that simple from a scientific perspective, but basically it's a patented recipe. We call it Marinosolv, that allows the solubilization of otherwise insoluble drugs. And this technology. We have patented. We have shown in clinical trials that it works, and we have two key in-house projects that we expect to generate upfront milestones and royalty payments in the future. Then we have a client-sponsored Solve for You projects, which basically Solve for You is the brand that we offer our technology, our services to external partners. Here we get paid for everything what we do in a cost-plus model. And later on, we get royalties and milestones upon success of these projects, a little bit similar to the Biotech model. And then recently, and just we announced it in a press release yesterday, we become a component supplier for different compounding pharmacies, and this allows us to generate revenues with attractive margins. Also to that I will come in a minute. So what is our key project or key product? What we call Budesolv. It's an intranasal corticosteroid. It's a corticosteroid that has an immediate effect on allergy symptom relief. And that's something that if you're allergic, you probably know. If you're not, you probably don't. But on these leaflets of standard products, it's written that it may take up to 14 days until you get full relief, full effectiveness of your product. And when we organized the clinical trial, the health authorities, they told us, okay, we know that the standard products, they are not effective, so please treat the patients at least for a week, and then you do your head-to-head comparison. And of course, we wouldn't sit here if that wouldn't have worked. So we basically we can show we have an immediate relief. We can do it with an 85% dose reduction. We can do it preservative-free, and that's exactly what has been shown in a phase 3 pivotal clinical phase 3 study. On the left side, you see a curve. What happens to patients? Actually, it's people who have been cross-pollen allergic, and they were put into a chamber. Of course, they were not forced, and then. This is for volunteers, of course. And then they were treated with the different products. The comparator product was Rhinocort Aqua, which is a Johnson & Johnson brand. And then you see the effect when they on the symptoms, and you see that only our product, Budesolv, showed a relief after the first dose, whereas the placebo and the Rhinocort did not, which is expected and which is known. On the right side, you see that this is really a significant effect after the treatment, and it's the first corticosteroid with immediate symptom relief after the first dose. That's going to be the claim. TNSS means Total Nasal Symptom Score. It's a symptom score that is commonly used. So when you look at the market of these products, there is a lot of remedies out there, different brands, different products. Rhinocort, by the way, is the lower right one. And the other one, there's Flixonase, there's Flonase, there's Nasal Cord. So different brands from different companies, some big players in the field, former GSK, former Sanofi, former Johnson & Johnson. And all these products have one thing in common. They contain preservatives, they are not sterile, they have slow onset of action, require relatively high doses, and face generic competition. And to our point of view, these products pretty much represent what we consider a Nokia phone of the year 2000. So there is definitely, first of all, a need for an iPhone, and then when it comes to us, we want to change that. And if you look further on the market, which is shown on the left side, basically this market, it's US dollar billion, so it's a double-digit billion dollar market. And basically, you have the antihistamines, which of course they have a symptom relief, but they also have side effects. Then you have the corticosteroids. This is those two products, so these two compounds are the biggest pie of the chart. And you have decongestion and immunotherapy, which do a little bit around 10% of the entire market. And on the right side, we have modeled what would happen if you bring such a technology into the market, a transformative market. That's the blue line, the new tech, and it has the potential to ramp up to 5 billion revenues once such a technology is fully introduced. That does not mean that our product is going to make this 5 billion. The technology has the potential. We consider our first product, Budesolv, once introduced, can take at least 10% of these numbers. We're expecting around 500 million revenue on this product. Basically, in pharma, this is not extremely big, but for us, it would be absolute game changer. And just consider a royalty, a high single-digit royalty on 500 million. That would put us in a position where we get annual royalties higher than our current market cap. So that would really change the game. Yeah. When we look at these markets, it's a little bit different than to other pharma products. So the US is dominant, but it's not the sole one big market. There's allergy patients everywhere in the world, and they need treatment, and they get treatment. So you have US dominance. And what I can tell you here, we are, for all these regions and all these areas, we are in discussions with partners, with potential partners, on a term sheet level, on a negotiation level. So it's we are pretty sure that we're going to be able to license the product in the near future. So what is the commercialization strategy? Currently, we are in this partnering process, and by the way, we are take advantage of the help of an external corporate finance advisor who helps us in this project to structure this process. In parallel, we work on a dossier for the submission in Switzerland, where we already have a partner, and this dossier can then also be used for other partners, but the upstream is an independent one. It has nothing to do with Switzerland, and of course, follow on, we work then on the approvals with the partners and expect then after launch, of course, we expect royalties from that product. In the meantime, we get milestone payments and upfront payments. At least this is the plan, and thus finance the company until the royalties are sufficient going forward. Yeah. Our second product, Tacrosolv, is a novel ultra-low-dose tacrolimus eye drop formulation. And tacrolimus, for those who are not familiar with those type of substances, in eye care, you cannot use corticosteroids because corticosteroids increase the eye pressure. So you need alternative solutions to get the inflammation down. And the macrolide immune suppressants are the compounds of choice, and tacrolimus is the most effective macrolide immune suppressant. And this substance class has one problem. It's practically insoluble, and our technology, we can first of all solubilize and bring it forward, and we can improve the onset of action of this type of drugs. We've already shown that in an exploratory phase 2 clinical trial, and you see that the higher dose in this phase 2 trial showed a significant difference between a placebo after a treatment period of a couple of hours. And the most compelling thing here is when we shared this data with key opinion leaders, doctors, was the time of treatment. So when you consider this comparator products, a product on the market that treat the inflammation in eyes, which are on the market, especially in the US, for example, like Restasis, that's a product that has to be taken for a couple of weeks, at least probably a month, until you see real significant efficacy. So the feedback from the KOLs was, wow, cool data. You already see a difference between placebo and Verum on day 8. So it's pretty much surprising, and we can measure that it's a 26% reduction in total ocular symptom score on day 8. So that market, in that case, the market is pretty much US driven. 3/4 of the of the market are US sales, mainly driven by high prices in the US and also high reimbursement prices. Recently, it's indications that first of all, prices will go up in Europe as well, and for also reimbursement for this type of products will go up in Europe. But basically, it's a US-driven market, and of course, we also want to target in our partnering process the US market. So from perspective, what we're gonna do with that product and we're gonna do with that partner, we do not plan to conduct phase 3 trials ourselves, at least not alone and not without a partner. So we are in a strategic and evaluation and partnering process, also supported by the M&A advisor. And the plan is that the completion of the clinical development should then be done by the partner. And in the meantime, and that was the reason of the press release, we're establishing an increase or a compounding business for that. And the reason is that the demand of doctors is so high that we have been approached by doctors and pharmacists that we have seen your phase 2 data. Why don't we go give this to patients immediately? And pharmaceutical compounding allows that. And so we are going to be a supplier here. And that's going to be a very interesting additional business that allows us to explore, first of all, our technology, but also to get revenues earlier than before we have a marketing authorization of the product. So why is compounding so interesting? It's a growing specialty market. In Austria, it's even the law that pharmacies can charge 20% more on a drug when they do it compounded. We have a trend towards personalized medicine, so the pharmacists can prepare that in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, and a lot of other countries. It's a real additional business for the pharmacists. There's a structuring demand. We have different aging population, and of course, there's a supply gap. Sometimes this drug is simply not available. Tacrosolv is a typical example. And the suppliers benefit because there is high regulatory intensity. There's a growing installed base, so pharmacists can do that. They know how to do it. And of course, it's a premium service opportunity for the pharmacists, but also for us. So we really can capture this value, and we plan to expand this business. Yeah, when it comes to financials, and there's the reasons we just published our financial report, so I encourage you to look on our website. So here it's at a glance how the Marinomed is going. For those who know us, we come from a difficult situation in the past. We have fixed obligation coming from the restructuring process 1.5 years ago. We still have to pay 5.2 million to our creditors, which is mainly one creditor, that's the European Investment Bank. So you can consider it a fixed repayment without interest. So we don't pay interest for this debt. And the outpayments are fixed, but the income stream is not really exactly to be planned. So we still have to get an earnout of up to 15 million from Unita, from the sale of our carrageenan business. Delays there were the reason for the recent capital increase. It was not initially planned to do a capital increase, and we consider we don't want, of course, having said it, we're gonna plan to be profitable. It's not the plan to go back to the capital market. Once the pipeline of Unita, the pipeline of the earnout streams at the moment looks okay, that we can expect additional payments. Of course, we want to see upfront and milestone payments from the deals that we plan for Budesolv. As said earlier, it's not exactly clear when at what time point we will get money there. I'm pretty sure and wouldn't sit here if I would not believe that we're gonna earn money with that asset, and the same is true for Tacrosolv. And in the meantime, we charge service fees to our Solv4U client, get revenues there, and also plan to get milestones and royalties. So you feel encourage you to look at our profit and loss statement. I just want to, you see it's an operating result of more than 18 million euros. So that's not the cash it's around 2.9 euros per share earnings, but it's mainly coming from the restructuring gain that we were able to book in last year when we completed the restructuring. So it's not a cash effective, but basically it's that the downwriting of the debt that we had at that time. And the asset part of the balance sheet, pretty simple. You see the property, plant and equipment. It's our facility close to Vienna. It's in Neuburg, straight close to the highway. So pretty nice lab space and facility. The value is probably much higher of our facility. And basically, we cannot activate in our balance sheet the intellectual property that we have, which is basically our main asset. On the equity and liability side, you see accumulated losses, which according to Austrian law really can be used. So it's until we have profits, we can make profits up to this close to 53 million euros, and still have these tax deductions. And if you look at the liabilities to banks, this includes the 5.2 million that has to be paid to the creditors still. And the plan is once this is paid off mid next year, that to clean up the balance sheet, and basically with the exception of these two convertible bonds, which we expect that bondholders will convert into shares, that then the balance sheet is basically free of debt. And in parallel, of course, when you go through such a restructuring, we have a very stringent and hard cost efficiency and revenue increase program. We optimize our non-milestone revenue and other income, and of course, we have a service agreement with the buyer of the Carragelose business, which is Unitop. We have ongoing Solv4U customer projects. We get the Austrian research premium, which refunds us 14% of our R&D costs. Basically, we take care that we bring the burn rate to 0 by next year, so we get independent of the milestone and royalty payments. So the idea is that the running of the company finance itself, so being profitable there, and then get on top the payments from the royalties and the milestones. To summarize it up, 2 late-stage assets in a very interesting time point, a company that plans to be profitable. We are far advanced with a couple of interested partners, and we expect to stay continuously profitable and be debt-free up from mid next year. So, and having said that, I'm finished and open for your questions.
So thank you very much, Andreas. You mentioned 25 minutes, and on spot, you'll finish your presentation 25 minutes later. We have a couple of questions. The first one probably is one you just finished your presentation with. Where's external, what is the minimum funding and deal flow needed to avoid another capital raise over the next 12 months?
And basically, the minimum it's pretty simple. We need this 5.2 million, of course, and basically what we expect that the earnouts from the sale of the Carragelose business covers that, and more. And we expect also a down payment from licensing a first asset, Budesolv, and in combination, it should suffice. Should suffice. Basically, for the next 12 months, we plan to bring our burn rate down. Currently, we have running costs of around 300,000 per month, and trying to get that down to zero.
Perfect. Thank you very much. There are two questions related to your Budesolv and Tacrosolv products. I'll try to just combine them both. Where is the external partner interest strongest today, in Budesolv, Tacrosolv, or formulation services?
Basically, Budesolv and formulation services, there's a complete different businesses. With Budesolv, they're already in a very advanced stage, post due diligence and in contract negotiations, with several parties involved in the entire markets that I showed. So it's gonna be multi deals, not one. But we are also working with one very big partner here towards the deal. But as I said, it's not very clear in which exactly time point we'll get it. The plan together with the plan is to be finished by summer, and now we are working on that. The reality knows the plans.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you very much. The final question is regarding your restructuring. What would be the clearest proof point in 2026 that Marinomed has moved from restructuring story to commercial biotech platform?
The best way to show that is to show profits, and show a good deal on Budesolv with an international partner, with a name that investors see the capability to push such a product in the market. It's not enough to have a winning product. You need a strong partner with marketing capabilities to launch that and to push it into market to generate real sales.
Perfect. I'll just look at the chat box. There are no further questions, and given that we are almost on time, I would like to conclude the presentation today. Andreas, thank you very much for presenting Marinomed. Very interesting phase in which you are in at the moment, and also appreciate that you take the time to present your company today. We all know that you are on another conference today. For all others who are listening, I've just put in the next event slot into the chat box. It's Eurotelicides, and we're happy to see you there. And Andreas, thank you much. Thank you very much again. And have a
Thank you
great
very
day.
much, everybody, for joining this call. Thank you.